Hi, I'm Caleb and today I'll be sharing on my marketing assignment for Misha. So Misha was actually founded in 1997 in China as a shaved ice stall and they are currently operating as a supply chain business for all the Misha franchises all over the world right now. And that is their revenue model. So in 2022, they actually entered Singapore and since then they have actually opened 30 plus outlets across MRT stations and malls. So Misha actually falls under the beverage and ice cream industry, which is valued at around USD $34 billion. And the market in Singapore is really competitive with around 60 plus bubble tea brands. So these are a few competitors, with the first one being Chucky. Chucky actually has around 37 outlets around Singapore and they are considered the most premium of the bunch in the industry. So Gongcha actually closed down last year in 2025 and they currently have 0 outlets, but they're considered the more mid-range of the bunch. As for Luckin Coffee, they actually have the most number of outlets, around 81 outlets, and they mainly sell through their online platforms and delivery services as well. So Pingshare is actually more of like a replica based on MiShare and they have very similar pricing strategies. They have around 12 outlets in Singapore. So MiShare actually targets those who are Gen Zs or young millennials with a higher female ratio than male. So those who may be more attracted towards the cute aesthetics of the smoking mascot, or those who may be even finding for a cheaper or more affordable option may be inclined to buy from MiShare. So it is important to note that Singapore has a very stable governance and they have very close ties with China. So this means that it will be very easy for Misha to integrate and expand within Singapore. Next, the GDP has been looking quite solid for Singapore and they have a GST of 9% since Jan 2024. F&B sales have been quite okay so far, but they have been seeing a lot of closures recently. So bubble tea has actually been quite a regular consumer item in Singapore, but a lot of people have been concerned about their own sugar intakes. So since we're entering a cashless era, Misha has to be aware that they have to create a digital app so that they can accommodate and close the gap between other competitors and themselves so they can have more online purchases. Additionally, they have to also watch out that they can no longer advertise their great tea drinks or below, so this might affect their marketing. And lastly, they have to face tightened environmental requirements due to Singapore's aggressive sustainability targets. Also, they also have to make sure that they reduce their single-use plastic cups because other companies are being scrutinized for that. So on to the SWOT analysis, their first strength is that they're actually the strongest priced beverage chain in Singapore. So this is made possible through their self-produced core ingredients, which is actually 10 to 20% lower than the other competitors. Next, they actually have a really big presence globally, which surpasses even McDonald's and Starbucks. So this actually helps Misha have a unmatched purchasing power and also lower unit per cost. However, they are locked to a low price segment because if they were to increase their prices, customers might change their perspective of the company being affordable and they might shift to another company instead. Next, they have a lack of iconic differentiated menu items like Koi, for example, because they have the golden bubble tea, but Misha doesn't really have anything special at all, so they are lacking that part. So since Gongcha has actually closed down last year, they left over a lot of physical space and displaced demand for the industry to take. So Misha can actually capitalize off of this and take over the space and demand. Additionally, they can also create their own digital app for online purchases and deals for their customers. So Misha's biggest threat is actually their replica Pingshare because they've been actually expanding at a much faster rate than Misha themselves in Singapore. And additionally, Misha will have to comply with all the health regulations, meaning that they cannot promote any grade D drinks or below, and this affects their marketing. So if they were to accommodate their rising costs, they will actually have to adjust their pricing strategies, but this may affect the customers' perceptions. Next, they actually have to accept the fact that their best sellers will not be able to be advertised because there's a nutrient cap. Lastly, they actually have to acknowledge that more cup soap will be equal to more plastic waste. So if they do not follow the eco-friendly alternatives, they will actually be behind the competitors. So the first sustainable opportunity that they have would be to actually introduce the Snow King reusable cup where buyers can actually have their own bring your own cup discounts when they bring it over. So this ensures that there is sustainable packaging while also introducing loyalty for the company. So next is actually regional sourcing where they can actually partner up with Malaysian fruit farms so that they can reduce the food miles instead of, let's say, importing stuff or food from China instead. However, they face the challenge of facing a greenwashing risk because their ESG only covers China. Singapore has no proper sustainable proof, and that makes them vulnerable to backlash without proper claims. Lastly, they will have to understand that their large volume will scale with their waste. So since they have a lot of outlets and stores, this will affect their waste and store per day. Thank you.